How's it going, guys? I think everything is working now as I look around me. Okay, so we are back. It looks like we already have a couple people on the stream, and I'm assuming you can hear me now because all my little bars and things are lighting up and microphones are working and bars are moving, and I'm a happy camper. So, what's up, Kevin? I'm going to add your comment to the, there we go. And, oh, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Here we go. And, yeah, there we go. What's up, Kevin? How's it going, buddy? Get my comment bar lined up. There we go. So what this preliminary podcast is kind of, is just making sure everything's working correctly and everything before we start next week. Looks like we have a couple listeners on here already, and that's exciting. So how's it going, guys? I'm glad to be on here. I'm glad to be with you. Glad to be back for another season. We started this broadcast about this time last year, and we had plenty of good guests. It ran all the way till June. Not sure how far out we're going to run this one. It really depends on my traveling schedule and things like that. And part of it being related to the traveling schedule part will be that we are going to we're going to be broadcasting from probably a couple different countries this year as I'm out and about. I'll be going to California at the end of this month. Hopefully we'll get a good broadcast out there at ETS EPS. So a lot of things coming up. And I appreciate that, Kevin. Said got you loud and clear. Yeah, so things are working. It's good. I don't feel too bad, though. I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast last night after I got in with J.D. Vance. I noticed they were having technical difficulties. So if Rogan can have difficulties, then I can have difficulties. So notice I'm clipping a little bit, so I'm going to turn it down. Yeah, so election season's happening right now. I hope that's doing you good. Hope that everybody's staying encouraged and not hating every man, woman, and child that disagrees with you right now. That would be terrible and unchrist-like. So I hope that's not the case for my listeners. So it's man, what a crazy time this has been, though. The thing about religion and politics is it's like politics is where your worldview really plays out. I mean, you can take it straight to the voting booth and vote your conscience and be a voice, and as I shared with my students the other night, you can be the you're participating. What a privilege this is that you're participating in choosing the leader that has probably the largest influence, and his or her cabinet will have the largest influence, more so than any other entity in the world. I mean, we program, we don't think about that. We're programmed to think about all the other issues, all the personalities involved and all this other stuff. And we tend to forget that, our elections really frame how the world thinks about a lot of things. And, and I've noticed that over the last couple of years, as I've traveled and talked to these different people in different places. I'm trying to get comfortable here. That, it's no mistake whatsoever that, I've been in, I've spoken in 10 different countries since March of this year. And in every single country, they ask for one talk. And that is, can you help us make sense of the LGBT movement, the sexual revolution that's going on in our country, that's flowing from the West and things like that. So it's like, man, being part of this global conversation has really opened my eyes to just the importance of our elections here and who leads the free world in some ways. And, the United States, the European Union, and the United Nations really have a lot of influence about what's going on around the world. And so this has become such a pressing issue in the last couple of years, at least in my personal life, that as I started my PhD this year, I'll likely do my dissertation based around some sort of topic with this. So I'm working on that right now. So if anybody has any insight, please give it. So a lot going on. Boy, there's a lot that's happened in the last, I mean, we haven't been on here since June, but there's been a couple of different assassination attempts on American presidents. There's been former American presidents. There's been an election going on. There's been the United Nations enforcing human rights laws on so-called human rights laws in Nigeria. Thailand has legalized gay marriage, which is going to, I'm sure, influence other countries in Southeast Asia. North Korea is joining a war alongside Russia. Unprecedented situation there. There's a lot going on around the world right now, and and not least, we're in this election cycle here. So a lot to talk about, a lot of things to converse, and sometimes we just need an escape to think about other things. So I know for sure we're going to have here in a couple of weeks Dr. Marcos and his new book about film. We're going to talk about his life in film and how his love for movies has framed a lot of his work, and how to think about worldview through through movies, and how to apply the scriptures and in that way. We're going to be talking to some people from across the globe, possibly some apologists from Brazil and East Africa, South Africa, Malaysia, and other places in Southeast Asia. We're going to look at the global conversation, so to say. So this is, I've always said the truth conversation is a global conversation. So that's it's going to be a lot of fun. So what I would like for you to do is we have this thing on these live broadcasts called a comment section, and and if you'd like to get in on the conversation today, and like to make some suggestions about what we should talk about this year, please put it in the comments. You can start doing that right now. I can see on my little ticker up here, there are 8 people watching on 3 different platforms right now. 8 people on 3 platforms, and I'm sure that you have an opinion. So feel free to get on the comment section right now, and let's get some of these subjects going if you'd like to. So yeah, feel free to get on there and say, like, what would you like for us to talk about this year? I've had some ideas. I think one of the best conversations we had last year was, or at least a lot of people commented on this, was we had a conversation on demonology, demons, angels and demons. How do we think about all of that? It was really invigorating. A lot of people really got a lot out of that. We've talked about doing some political broadcasts this year to try to get people thinking about. I mean, there's been some really good Christian thinkers bring up politics in the last decade at least. I mean, going back a long way. I mean, obviously. But in the last decade, there's been a lot of fresh conversation revolving around that subject. Of course, in the global conversation, we've talked about some things as well. How Western ideas are spreading into the global conversation. Of course, there's always the East versus West ongoing conversation of Islam and how to parse out all of that, especially with the war going on in Gaza and now in Lebanon. That's another thing that's happened since their podcast ceased this last time. It's amazing what all is going on in the world, and it's amazing how quickly these things are things are happening at such a rapid pace right now. I guess the way to say it, that it's amazing to watch it go. So yeah. So what's been going on with me in the last however long? So our last podcast was with Thomas Samuel, and I want to say that was probably back in early July. And then since then, I've been in 8 or 9 different countries, maybe 10 different countries, something like that. And I'm now the incoming. May have announced this last summer because it kind of happened then, but it's becoming more and more a big part of my life. I'm the next director for Ratio Christi International, so that'll happen in May, and so a lot of my life has been taken up. A lot of my time has been taken up just trying to manage that. Plus, I started a PhD this summer. Back in August at Biola. I guess it technically started in September. Doing a PhD there in intercultural studies, and that's been a lot of fun. I've been taking some really cool classes, just kind of some foundational research classes, and then my favorite class, though, if I'm honest, and I don't want to make my professors angry at me for saying which class is my favorite, but there's an obvious favorite because I'm such a history person, is the history of world Christian movements, which is focused on kind of the Christian history that we never hear about. So what happened in the Middle East, and what happened in Asia, and what happened in Africa and sub-Saharan Africa even, while all of the rest of church history was happening during the medieval period and during the early church fathers period and ante-Nicene, post-Nicene fathers period. There's a lot going on in other parts of the world, so we got to study that. So I may try to have a couple of shows about that as well, because I just find that extremely interesting, and how these different versions of Christianity that have arrived in the Middle East and in Asia could have framed other world religions, how they interacted with other world religions and things, and it's just been a really fascinating thing, a lot to think about, a lot to digest, and I'm actually really looking forward to writing my final paper. Hopefully we'll try to get that published or something in that class, because it's just a lot of fun to study that. And so let me tell you about this summer. So it was a lot, but it was so fruitful, and it really helped me reimagine my life and calling in a lot of ways. And before this summer, I mean, I'd traveled across the Atlantic a couple times, mainly to sub-Saharan Africa. I'd been to Burundi and Uganda, and in East Africa. I'd traveled around the Caribbean quite a bit. Done some cruises, cruise stops. Don't really count those, but kind of hopping off a boat and back on in a foreign country for like a few hours. I don't really count that, but and I've worked with some like closed countries, underground church stuff, but this summer was really, really interesting, and I'll probably talk more about that throughout the year. I could probably easily do a 10-show podcast about that trip this summer, because I was interacting with so many different ideas and cultures, thought processes, different ways to view the world, just in rapid fire almost. And so my journey started in Africa, in West Africa. It was my first time landing in West Africa, so I went to Nigeria, and then from Nigeria I went to I think Rwanda was the next stop. It was either Rwanda or Kenya. I can't remember which one. It was Rwanda, yeah. So went from Nigeria, Rwanda, then Kenya, then South Africa, mainly northern South Africa, like Joburg, Pretoria area. Then went from South Africa up to Romania, northeastern Romania, in the Transylvania area, and Cluj-Napoca, and went from there to so that's Eastern Europe all the way over to Southeast Asia. I spent time in Cambodia in Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, and then from there, Malaysia. Oh, I'm sorry. I first arrived in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, then went up to Phnom Penh, Siem Reap, back to Phnom Penh, then flew over to the Philippines and spent a significant amount of time in Manila, a couple of days in one of the lesser known islands east of Cebu called Koyabog, I believe. But Meiji going to kill me for probably mispronouncing that. But yeah, it was an extremely fruitful trip. I got to see some of the biggest cities, most in each of those countries, and a lot of amazing things. And so I'll take you through that journey, just kind of starting the truth conversation back. We'll talk about this a little bit, and the things that astounded me in each country, and just kind of how that all looked. I mean, it was So to make a long story short, I was asked to take over the role of Director of International Operations for Ratio Christi. And so Ratio Christi is the mission organization that I work for. We consider ourselves missionaries on college campuses. If you've not heard of Ratio Christi, it stands for the Reason for Christ. And so we take apologetics onto a college campus, and we teach students how to use apologetics as a platform to share the gospel and defend the gospel of Jesus Christ among the world of ungodly ideas that are being passed down throughout not just the university, but also TikTok videos and YouTube videos and things like that. That's why I started this podcast. I mean, it just lines up with my conviction that we need more and more Christians out in the public square, be it in universities or on podcasts or YouTube channels, to talk about Christianity and the validity of Christianity, that Christianity is not a blind faith. It is not a blind faith. It is a very reasonable faith. And it has, there's good reasons to believe Christianity is true. You'll hear that. I mean, I'm not going to go into that right now. I don't want to derail us too much, but every time I say that sentence, I just think of like 10 different reasons that come into my head, like the validity, the historicity of the resurrection, the validity of the Christian worldview regarding teleology and the obvious order of creation behind the universe, and the Kalam cosmological argument, and all these other things that I've learned, and how you can just look at culture and see that the more you withdraw God from culture on purpose, the more it just begins to crumble. I mean, it's just all around us right now. And we are in a battle right now. We're in a war. So I'm going to get down off my soapbox and just say I'm very thankful to be working with Ratio Christi and doing what we do, training tomorrow's leaders in the United States and abroad in a huge way. And so my job this summer was to try to connect myself with as many of these missionaries as I could overseas. And what's cool about Ratio Christi is almost all of our missionaries are from that part of the world. So if we have a missionary in Nigeria or Kenya or Rwanda or South Africa, they're from there. If they're in Malaysia, they're usually from Malaysia, so on and so forth. So I got to get to know a lot of really brilliant people. And a lot of these trips, they looked like one of three things. I was either planting a chapter, I was prospecting in a country where they need a chapter, where there isn't a chapter, but there seems to be some interest, or I was connecting with chapters that were already established and seeing what we can do to help, and just kind of surveying and asking around, just to kind of see like what kind of vision do we need to project with Ratio Christi International. So it was a lot of fun, and I expect it to grow. I expect it to do a lot of things in the next 5 to 10 years, especially. And so as of tomorrow, for instance, we're starting our first education cohort with Apologetics on Mission to educate our missionaries in the field and propel them forward with some fresh curriculum to help students get started and things like that. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm really thankful for Doug and Ben and all they've done to help us with that as well. So let's talk about this trip. The trip was amazing. I I came out of it a new person. I mean, really, it was just I look at everything a lot differently now, and I would imagine that's going to happen to me every year. But I started in Nigeria, and that was my first time in Nigeria, and Nigeria is pretty famous for being pretty heavy on the Muslim persecution side of things. I mean, there's a lot of Muslim Islamic persecution in the northern part of the country. I didn't see any of that. I never felt like I was unsafe there. I mean, there were obviously some cultural issues that needed to be addressed. Polio was still an issue there. It's the first country I've ever flown into that I was required to show that I had a polio vaccine to go through. That's sad to think about, But to see that in the marketplace and things, it was pretty eye-opening. But the students there, apologetics in Abuja, and at least the universities we talked to, like many of these places, it was kind of a new field. So the students were very open. Ikechukwu is our missionary on the ground there. He's just starting some chapters there in Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria. So we had the privilege of having a chapter planting expedition, if you will, a conference in Abuja International University, where we talked about abortion and homosexuality and things of that nature. And at first, I kind of questioned the wisdom on doing a conference over something like that, because in my studies of Muslim Christian dialogue and interaction and stuff, I mean, Nigeria is one of those hotspot places where Muslim apologetics would seem to be pretty much something that you would have to know if you're going to do apologetics there. So, but in Ikechukwu's wisdom, he said we need to do something on abortion and gay marriage, which from my research had turned up it really wasn't that much of an issue, especially in Abuja. But what happened a week before I arrived there is the United Nations imposed imposed their will upon them. Started imposing worldview upon Nigeria, saying that if you are going to accept foreign aid from us, then you're going to have to start loosening your laws on abortion and gay marriage and things like that, and allow people like Planned Parenthood to come and set up there and things like that. And that was shocking to me. I'd never heard something just so overt, so it was unambiguous. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So a week before that happened, there was a $150 million package attached to foreign aid package attached to the United Nations that basically said if you don't allow us to impose our worldview, then you can't have this money. And I found out that's a pretty common tactic in a lot of, especially African nations, in places that the world would consider underdeveloped nations or whatever. And so they kind of hold that over their head to try to get this, well, let's face it, it's a very liberal agenda to get into these countries. And is really sad. And if you don't like the word liberal agenda, maybe we could use unbiblical agenda, or maybe demonic agenda. I don't know. As much as people hate the word woke now in this country, that's pretty much what everybody else in the world calls it, is the wokeism, the spread of wokeism or woke ideology. And when you ask them overseas what woke means, because that could mean a lot of different things here, it's usually like it's a pejorative jab, but to them, it's woke simply means the leftist agenda from the West, which is tied to homosexuality, abortion, other human rights issues that they deem unbiblical and do not line up with their country's values. And so I was confronted with that over and over and over again. So yeah, we had a great conference at Abuja International University. It really helped the students. I could tell by some of the questions and comments. They were so hungry for knowledge. I mean, the conference went an hour over the time it was supposed to, but they all ate it up. They loved it. The questions were so substantive. And even I can remember one of the worship leaders telling me, he said, I did not understand how to reach this people group, and I thought they were unreachable. But now I have a lot of confidence to go out and reach into the homosexual community and try to win them over to the Lord with the gospel and good reasons and yada yada yada. I was like, man, this is awesome to see apologetics show up in a culture in such a way to where it's not been ever been introduced like that. With most cultures, it is more of like a Adam and Steve apologetic, where that's really not effective. I mean, you're effectively telling homosexual community that you cannot come here. We don't like you or whatever, however they want to read that. But approaching it with compassion and with understanding, it's as Paul said in Romans, it's goodness and severity of God that leads people to repentance. So, yeah, allowing them to have a more positive approach toward reaching that community, giving them liberty to do that with good, solid apologetics. It's been really fruitful to see that happen, and just introducing the basics, and seeing people reach out and be on fire to reach that community. So it's really cool. The next stop was in Rwanda, and that was really awesome because I was in Kigali, and Kigali was, Kigali's basically it's the capital of Rwanda, and it's not that the church is like behind the times or anything. You have to understand, when you're talking about apologetics, it's really new for a lot of these countries, and there have been apologetics conferences in Rwanda before. Apologetics on Mission had done one in the university there and things, and it's such a new thing. Like people are like, what is this? What's going on here? I think one guy told me there were thousands of people at the first conference they had in Rwanda a couple of years ago. This is the first of its kind as far as we know. So one of my translators from Burundi, James, put together for me a conference of pastors, and there were about 30 pastors there. And it was really cool because they were very receptive and they were very open to apologetics. And what was really neat was my translator didn't really have a term for apologetics there because it was just such a brand new idea. And so as I spoke to them and introduced apologetics to them, it's sad that this is my favorite memory, but man, I wish more people in America would be this way. But when I talked about the 80 million babies that we had killed since we federally legalized abortion with Roe v. Wade, there's a pastor in the back of the room like wailed out loud. Like you could hear him like gasping for air. He was crying so hard. And man, that really affected me. Like I had a hard time going on without, like, I was trying to hold back tears. I'm like, yeah, I wish more of us did that. And so we had 2 or 3 applicants that came out of that that want to do Ratio Christi now and things, and so hopefully we'll have a group in Rwanda within the next year or so. So that's been really cool, and of course my new friend Emmy ran me down while I was there. He's done college ministry there for a long time in Rwanda, and he's a single father of about 5 street kids. I mean, he's just really solid guy, and he was connected through Apologetics on Mission to us, and so he's joining our cohort, and he's gonna help us launch some Ratio Christi chapters over there. It looks like he's still got to make it through the application process, but I have faith that he's going to do that. So it's just really awesome. He hunted me down. If I'd have thought I've got the shirt hanging up over there. He gave me this really cool shirt. I should have wore it for the broadcast, but what I'll do is I'll interview Emmy and I'll wear the shirt that he gave me about that. So look forward to that this summer, or this spring probably. And then so that was really fruitful. I was only in Rwanda there for a couple of days. Then I had to run on over to Kenya to do some planning for the trip that I took a couple of weeks ago. So got together with the guys, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, we had a couple of meals together. I introduced them to Danny, our current director of international operations. We had a great time together. Gave them all their uniforms and stuff. Took some pictures. It's just a really good time. I got to meet with my buddy Wambui while I was in town, things like that. And so yeah. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful occasion. And it was too short. My next week was spent down in South Africa. And, we just had a comment come in and said, can we discuss Jehovah's Witnesses? Man, why not? We didn't talk about that last year. We didn't go through the American cults, but yeah, we should talk about Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventism. I actually have got a buddy in Kenya, so I'm replying now to this Saint Jadev was his name. So he'll, this is what I'm replying to, actually. Can we discuss Jehovah's Witnesses? Yeah, why not? And I actually have a buddy of mine in Kenya who is an expert in these matters, and maybe we can get him on for an interview. That'd be wonderful. Thank you. More of that, please. Please put your what we want to cover in the comments. So, in South Africa, we did a lot of planning, actually. I have it sitting here next to me. Been working on, all the fun stuff. We had to do things like this. We got right here, our international chapter manuals and things like that. So we went through this guy and talked about what we need to do. Look at this. They even put mine and Tab's picture in the back of it if I can find it. Yay! Yeah, there we are. Isn't that funny? So I showed up to that. That's pretty cool. We're just talking about curriculums and roles and yada yada. I mean, it's just meeting after meeting, and it was pretty cool. So yeah, it's pretty. That was a good talk, good chat. Got to meet Rawld and Lydia and Simon and company down there, and got to know Simon Brace a little bit better. And so yeah, we had a great time, and looking forward to getting back to South Africa as soon as I can. Then from there I flew up to Romania, which took forever. And I flew into Cluj-Napoca, which is the capital of Transylvania, where we have a missionary up there. And man, he is he's doing such a great job. His name's Colleen. He's a Baptist church pastor, been there for a long time. Romania, last I checked, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but I could be wrong on this, but I think only 4% of Romania is evangelical, which is, most of it's Orthodox. So there's a lot of work to do there. A lot as far as just getting the gospel out to people and the need of apologetics and things of that nature. So yeah, so appreciate Colleen and all he's doing. He's already had a summer camp retreat where he there was an atheist that came and gave his life to Christ and all of that. So yeah, Ratio Christi's really doing well in Romania. We just need to do some expansion into Eastern Europe, and we've actually had a couple of inquiries that will that could very well do that. So we're looking forward to the future there as well. And then I got to spend some time at that summer camp and things. We're actually thinking about going back there next year, and so I'll put on this broadcast when it's finished. Like, if anybody wants to give to that kind of project, like we have an account set up that 100% of your donations go to that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there in Romania. And then from Romania, we went over to Malaysia, and this is my first time stepping foot in Kuala Lumpur. And oh my goodness, that's an awesome city. I had a great time. The church that I stayed at was right in the middle of downtown area, about 10 minutes from Chinatown. Some of the best Asian food that you could ever eat, and it was awesome. Great church. We had some great conferences there. Just what a place. So yeah, it was absolutely wonderful trip. I got to meet my new friend Samuel Nissan down there, and he's actually invited me. He came to our conference and kind of hunted me down, if you will. we are working together, collaborating now on a set of conferences going to India, Malaysia, and Singapore this summer, in several different cities, talking about the validity of classical Christian doctrines, especially the Trinity. And I'm going to be talking about progressive Christianity and how we have to hold on to these classical Christian doctrines to even remain Christians. So yeah, that's going to be an awesome journey, I'm sure. So be hitting several different speaking events and 3 or 4 different countries there together in the course of a couple of weeks. So just my style. I thought I'd have a good time doing that. And then I'm going to get to the rest of these questions after the end of this. Just got a couple of countries left to talk about, and then we will hit some of these questions up. I love that these are coming in. So yeah, feel free to put any kind of show that you would like to see this season. Put it in there, and let's get that. And I'll address each one of them quickly at the end of the broadcast, and we'll talk about who we could get to maybe hop on the program, talk to us about this stuff. So, let's see, where do we go next? Yeah, Cambodia. So I landed in Phnom Penh, and then we immediately went up to Siem Reap the next day. This is about a 6-hour road trip through the back country of Cambodia, which was beautiful. A lot of rice paddies and big Buddhist temples and monasteries and things like that. It was just really nice. And, of course, in Siem Reap, you've got Angkor Wat, which is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. Overwhelmingly huge temple that was built, back in the 1100s, I think it is, and it just takes your breath away. Absolutely wonderful. But as I was up there in Siem Reap, we ministered to a set of high schoolers where they had kind of a cultural first, according to our missionary contacts there, that I kind of broke a rule, I guess, like asking them to come up and if after I gave my testimony and things, asked if anybody wanted to receive Christ to come up to the front of the room and pray. And I guess in an honor shame culture like that, it's like people don't typically put a spotlight on themselves if they've felt like they've sinned or something. But we actually had about 5 students come up and receive Christ, which was so awesome. Oh my gosh, it was so neat to see that happen. And yeah, it was that was a really incredible experience. To just be in that part of the world, and and it was my first time in Asia, and it was just really it's a different kind of place. I mean I've been in Africa, I've been in South America and Europe and things, but man, Asia is like a totally different world, and I really enjoyed it. Really did enjoy it. Got to eat some bugs while I was there, things like that as well. Did all the did all the missionary stuff, but I really didn't have to eat the bugs. They just had them sitting there for $1, and I thought, it's when do you get this opportunity? So like I volunteered myself to eat those things, and me and my friend Gary just bit into a tarantula and a scorpion. I mean, you can find all that on my Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Maybe it's on YouTube. I can't remember. What else we eat? Spider. On a snake, spider, snake, and a scorpion. That's it. It was okay. I mean, didn't taste bad, didn't taste good. Like, it was just neutral. Not what I thought it would be, but moving on. And so we went from there to Philippines. I learned the hard way not to fly Air Asia ever again. Not only is it a dangerous airline, but the delays and the luggage restrictions and everything were just too much to handle. So, long story short, if you're in Asia and you can avoid Air Asia, then do it. And then, so I landed in the Philippines, got to meet some of our Filipino people, man, what an awesome group of guys. I'm looking forward to seeing, and girls. Sorry, Claudes and family. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Rotio Christie's going to do in the Philippines. There's been a lot of cool movement there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a conference there next year in June. So we've already got that on the calendar. So yeah, then I came back, and then school started at HCU, and I'm talking like due to a flight delay, I got back into the country from the Philippines. I think it was like a Wednesday, and then classes like freshman move-in and everything was on Friday. So I did not have any rest. Like it was crazy. And anybody that's in college ministry knows that it's just like bam, 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 beginning of the semester. And it was a lot to try to juggle, but man, we did it. We got through it. and the Lord's really blessed our chapter. We've actually expanded this year quite a bit. And yeah, it's been all God, man. Been all God since we got here. And I just give him all the praise, all the glory. Like everything's happened this summer. And then back here, it's just been awesome. So, after being back here for about a month and a half, I hopped on a plane again and went back to Kenya and planted some chapters. Went over there to plant chapters in African International University and Kenyatta University. And then we picked up another chapter almost by accident at what was called TUK, not to be confused with a tuk-tuk, which is a means of transportation, but TUK is Technical University of Kenya. So, and by the way, if you've never ridden on a tuk-tuk overseas, you need to do that. So we we get on the plane. I guess it was like end of September, early October when I got over there, and it was just very smooth, to be honest. I mean, we planted these chapters. I have reason to believe that we're going to have strong chapters in Kenya. Picked up another couple of missionaries. We went over there with 3, and now we're looking like we're going to, 4, and now it looks like we're going to have 5 or more. A lot of cool things happening there in Kenya and in East Africa in general. Because since we've been in Kenya, it looks like we've also gotten inquiries from, like I said, I was in Rwanda this summer. So if you tour a lot of people go and do safari tours and things in East Africa, and they get what's called an East African tourist visa, which is an interesting visa that allows you to go in and out of 3 different countries over there. So the East African countries are considered to be Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya. So there are a couple of border countries and things that you could include in East Africa, but that's the 3 majors. But it looks like we're going to have missionaries in all 3 countries maybe in the next year or 2. So that's really cool. And, anytime that you can get a region on board like that, that's epic. So, yeah, the Lord's really doing a lot of things in that way. And we also have been offered to maybe create a curriculum for worldview and apologetics at Africa International University, and really be strategic in equipping not just the universities and the missionaries in the universities, but also the pastors and things there in the East African world. Now, African International University is considered a very multi-ethnic university, and what they mean over there by that is there's a lot of people from a lot of different parts of Africa that go to school there. It's the largest evangelical college in East Africa as well. So we have good reason to think that we're gonna have an awesome impact there at AIU and other places. So yeah, and then I came back home for about a week, then hopped on another plane and went down to Brazil via Toronto, Canada. So I flew like up to Toronto and then down to Brazil, which doesn't make any sense, but that's what we did. So I flew Air Canada for the first time. Pretty awesome airline, by the way. If you ever have to fly internationally, Air Canada is highly recommended. And when I got down to Sao Paulo, Brazil, I was working with Apologetics on Mission, have a conference to recruit some people that were looking to do college ministry, and it looks like we have about 2 or 3 people who are going to be solid people there to get started in Brazil, which is a big chunk of, Brazil. If you look at a map, I'm looking over at my map on the wall over here, it represents a large swath of land in South America. So great to have Brazil on board, but the problem is Brazil is a Portuguese-speaking country, and a lot of South America speaks different Spanish dialects. So we have to get some Spanish-speaking countries on board too, and so we're working toward that now. Looks like I think we've had inquiries from a couple of different places over in that part of the world. I'm looking over at my list. Yeah, Uruguay is one of them. So, and I think Colombia as well. So yeah, we're really looking forward to all of that and see what the Lord does next. So, see some comments coming in here, and we'll get to those in just a moment. If you haven't put a comment on here yet, if you'd like to throw a subject at us to talk about, I would love to hear your thoughts. I always like to serve the listeners, so serve the people that I'm speaking to and not just speaking into a vacuum. So feel free to put whatever you like on there, and we'll try to get your subject on there. So so now that we're out of Brazil, now we're working on getting all our contacts together, getting them all categorized, looking through our new inquiries, and targeting countries next summer for planting missions and things like that. It looks like what we have right now on the list is our trips next summer is going to look like Philippines, South Korea, possibly Angola, Pakistan, Nepal, Tanzania, Zambia, a couple more of those. I think it's Tanzania's borders Kenya, so that's another good contact there. Possible stop in France. We're still seeing what's going to happen there. Possible stop in Iceland. I don't know. We had an inquiry from there the other day, so we'll see. They might be watching and be like, "Whoa, really?" but yeah, that's what we're looking at. Of course, you have to plan these things out way in advance before there's ever even a plan. But what we found out is, as long as you're getting your plane tickets about a month or two in advance, like that's when the plan really starts getting locked in. So right now, a lot of this still has to funnel through the system and see what happens, but would appreciate your prayers as doors seem to be opening up to us all over the world. So looking forward to spreading the good news of Jesus Christ again next summer. And if you'd like to get on board with that, there are ways to do it. So I want to look through some of these comments. Let's see. Here's one. Can we discuss Jehovah's Witnesses? I don't know why we couldn't. That would be good. Like I said, to get Danson or somebody on here to talk about, the 3 major American cults. And there's a lot of other cultish movements that are happening now, like the New Apostolic Reformation movement. Which is like the Bethel Church, Jesus culture type garbage that is going all over the place. And it's everywhere now. So, one of the best things it's kind of taking the place of the prosperity gospel. So, I mean, there's that conversation too. But I've noticed that Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and, Mormons, my gosh, especially even down here in Houston, most popular Christian reels that you see show up on every social media account is these, I think it's called Only For Him or something, Mormon Christian reels. And they're so-called Christian reels. They're not really Christian reels. But, yeah, not Mormon bashing, but they're not Christians. So there's that. So yeah, we could talk about Jehovah's Witnesses. We could absolutely bring that up and discuss it. Alongside, the other burned over district movements. I think that would be a lot of fun. So, yeah, thank you, Jdev. I think that's how you say your name. Forgive me if it isn't, but yeah, praise the Lord. Then we have Faith here. Faith said, could you talk about the division in the body of Christ leading to the formation of various denominations we have today? I think that'd be great. I found out that that's actually quite a big question. That's really a big question in the West, with a lot of students, because a lot of evangelical students are now turning to your more high church denominations and things like Anglicanism, Catholicism, things like that, because they see there's more of like a cohesion or unity in the older traditions of the church. At least that's how they perceive it. And then there's also a hearkening back to church tradition. They hear people quoted like Origen, Athanasius, Chrysostom, Justin Martyr, or I already said Origen. So I mean, they hear those words and then wonder, why in the world haven't we heard about this in church before? And so you see a lot of students like leaving evangelical denominations and going back to the more traditional denominations, high church denominations. So yeah, it's actually a much richer conversation than just like, well, denominations means division, so blah blah blah. A lot of people talk about it on such a surface level, but yeah, you could easily do an entire season of broadcasts talking about that subject. So yeah, we'll have to really cover that. Really have to lean into the church world and see who I could find to talk about that one. So yeah, thank you, Faith, for answering for asking that one. And looking through my comments here, I'm gonna bring Samuel on here just because he said Billiam. Then I'm just going to embarrass him a little bit. I'm going to leave you on here just a minute, Samuel. I'm going to leave you on here a minute longer. This is Samuel Contreras. His last name means contrary because he's a contrarian in Spanish. I'm just kidding. I love Samuel. He's one of our students here. My buddy Marlinda, she's kind of a regular on here now, it seems like. Good to see you back, Marlinda. Can we get a Joe Rogan podcast? I don't know. That would be completely up to Joe Rogan. I'd be totally open to getting on a Joe Rogan podcast. He broadcasts like 2 hours from me in Austin, so I mean it's not a far drive. Be totally willing to do that, but that's up to him. And I think you were just joking anyway. So, but yeah, don't know what I would talk about with old Joe, but yeah. So if any of you have any other suggestions, I appreciate it. Just throw it up here. Like, man, this would be cool. This would be cool. Yeah, I've had people suggest things like, well, what about Christian view of alien life? Yeah, I thought that would be cool. End times, prophecies, Israel, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and obviously we need to continue to have more conversations about Western worldview issues that are planting themselves all over the world, and because in the global conversation, who I'm talking to on a daily basis, they need to they need to understand why these things are disseminating from America and flowing and where they came from and all of that. Actually just been reading for the first time, I'm embarrassed to say it, Carl Trueman's book that came out in 2020 called The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, which is just rich, man. Oh my goodness, there's so much in there. I started it last year and put it down because life. And so I've been purposely etching out time to like do personal reading and stuff like that. And so reading that one has been really enriching. So I would actually love to get Carl Trueman on here. That would be kind of a long shot to talk about that. But yeah, just that kind of stuff. So, well, guys, I've probably been on here about an hour, 54 minutes. So yeah, glad to see everything's working. Glad to see some familiar faces on here. Glad to see some familiar faces on the chat, on the watchers. Just it's really cool. So glad to be back. We will start next week on Tuesday. We're going to be having a global conversations apologetics apologetics conversation and just talk about what's going on in the world. And I'm sure it will be interesting. So, yeah, you guys just keep posted, keep watching. Of course, like and subscribe, follow the channel, and especially on YouTube. That's something that happened this summer. We broke over 500 subscribers, which means the more people watch this broadcast, I can actually be monetized now, which should be pretty neat. I mean, that's just more money it gets to go to missions. So that's the way I look at that. So let's, so think about that. Try to spread our broadcast around if you think these things are important. Of course, we're not doing this for the money. We're doing this because it's my conviction to do it. So you guys, God bless you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for watching, subscribing, liking, spreading it, as my buddy Bishop Patrick just said, forwarding us to more nations around the world. That's kind of stuff that we need. So yeah, just keep us ever more in your prayers. And if you need me, of course, reach out to me. A lot of you guys are watching on my Facebook page, so you can just message me if you have a show idea or something that you'd like. You're welcome to do that, or you can email me. I'll put my email right here at billscott@ratiochristi.org. Yeah, there you go. So you can check it out. Look at this. I can even add it to my broadcast. billscott@ratiochristi.org. Just shoot me an email, And if you're interested in starting a Ratio Christi chapter overseas or something, shoot me an email about that too. I'd love to talk to you about getting that started. That would be wonderful. So thank you guys. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in this far. Special thanks to those of you that hung out the entire time. So, 57 minutes is a big commitment in the middle of the week, or at the end of the week. So, all right. Well, God bless you, and I will see you this Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the global apologetics scene. So, God bless you. We'll see you next time.